Psychotechnologies
He's live.
live. Whoa!
Welcome to the stream.
Thank you. It's very kind of you.
Stealing your intro style. So, yet last conversation, we were talking about. I mentioned that it feels like I don't know how to scale in my life. I do a lot of. I talk to people a bunch, and I hang out, and I form groups often. And the groups that I form tend to be 10 people or less, which is cool, but also it's like I'm lacking something in a skill of how to scale. Mm-hmm. And how to access more people, or how to get an idea to grow just beyond just me talking about something.
Hearing you say that, I just realized I've actually been part of some of your groups.
Oh yeah,
2 of them, right?
Yeah.
We've been part of 3 groups total.
Yeah, maybe. All of which, several of which are not still going. Like they did a thing, they lasted a couple of weeks or months, and then they decided, we're good, we don't need to keep going.
Yeah. And I've been there as a participant, not as an organizer. Although it's like co-creative, so it's like kind of, but not really. Even within the co-creative context, I would say it wasn't really an organizer. So that's interesting.
Yeah. See, it's invisible. You were there.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because like I was like coming into this conversation thinking about it in like an abstract way, like how do you scale, and then now I'm realizing like there's a pragmatic aspect to this as well, and like how do you scale theory, and then like practically how do you do it, and then like real life examples from situations that we've been in together.
Well, what was it like being in a group that I was sort of running? As it is, we started this up because you're in a group. Like, what made you go, oh, I want to keep going with this?
Yeah, with like the Psychotech, or like with you in general?
Yeah, well, just hanging out with me. Clearly, I must have done something right if you're still.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't exactly have an answer, but I can have some answer, which is like I'm looking for, like I came into effective altruism, and I wanted to like hang out, or rationality actually. I came into rationality, and like I wanted to hang out with people that are doing stuff and like do stuff with people. And like I'm like kind of like the most rationalist people that are doing things kind of went to effective altruism, and then effective altruism went to, I guess, like the meta modern kind of stuff. And I think we met in the metaphysicians without borders.
Right. So there's a mailing list. There's a Google group called the Metaphysicians Without Borders, and that's where we first. It's just a chat. They chat about different types of meditation and about different cool things that I was interested in, and I think I volunteered. Hey, come chat to me. I know how to do jhanas or meditation or something or other, and that's how you reached out, and then we met.
Yeah, because I was interested in meeting. I was like starting to get into this space, and I didn't. My group in Toronto is lacking in areas, and slash like some of them are too cool. Like the people that are doing this stuff, like a lot of the people are too cool to hang out with me, and then a lot of the people aren't cool enough for me to hang out with. So I kind of got stuck in like this in between space. So yeah, I was using the mail list. I met Tash on there him. I think I met on Twitter, but I went through a phase where I was like trying to meet a lot of people and hang out with them.
Right.
And so I did meet a bunch of people and hung out with them.
Well, this would apply to anyone who's sort of joining groups. They're trying to. It's either meet a bunch of people and hang out with them, or like if it's very topical, like I want to meet the vegans. I want to meet the meditators. I want to meet the people who carry the identity with me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was after at the beginning. I wanted to meet the people that carry the torch and or the identity. Like I wanted to meet the rationalists, like the, as high up as I could go, stuff. And
You got me.
I realized, no, actually something happened and then I got you. I realized that nobody's doing this. Nobody holds the identity for this stuff.
The psychotech identity.
No, not even. This is pre-psychotech. This is like back when I was still figuring out what I was interested in. I just because like it's like the rationalist stuff and like the kind of like the trajectory of rationality is you kind of either go like really specific and like predictions and like technical stuff, or you go more general and like philosophy and you go like meta modern essentially.
Well, I'd say there's a couple other trajectories. One is you so if you get stuck in rationality, then you go like math, logic, really you can go deeply into rationality.
Yeah.
Or you can use rationality as a stepping stone to effective altruism, metamodernism, like other meaning making.
I see effective altruism as like applied rationality almost.
Right.
In like a general sense, like not in a like a day-to-day, which I think it's lacking. Like I think it should be that as well, but they do like with charity. Like, what are you going to do with your rationality, right? Like you're going to figure shit out, and so you're going to figure out like how do you become like rich and happy, and or you figure out how do you become like rich, or which is like, there are people like that, but they kind of move into like you're more like accelerators or startups kind of stuff, I think.
Right. I suspect a couple of people jumped into rationality and then immediately forked into entrepreneurship and ignored the rationality thing because they were too busy getting shit done on the entrepreneurship, making money, meaning making.
Like, once you start doing that, like all the stuff pales in comparison.
Well, it's just a different. If that's what you care about, that's what you care about. Just like if you care about community, that's what, or if you care about philosophy, that's what you care about. So if rationality is like this quite good tool for a lot of domains, it can take you into AI, it can take you into EA.
AI is a big one where they go. Yeah.
Right. And in that sense, rationality also can take you into politics. There's a bunch of people who went rationality politics. There's from the early rationality days, there was Moldbug and a couple other names that escape me that then became the sort of right-leaning politics, what is now known as intellectual dark web sort of stuff. I would say started because some of the proponents went through rationality and then forked into this other place.
Wait, so rationality isn't like less wrong, or this predates less wrong?
Well, it's hard to like map the history, right? But what you had was less wrong.
Like
with
Brett Weinstein, or like, for example, would be like kind of like he seems like an alternate less wrong kind of.
Well, you had this forum, right? Less wrong, and there was a whole bunch of people posting on it, and there were also at the same time as doing that, those people were in other places on the internet talking about the politics they cared about and doing the things that they wanted to do. And I suspect that ultimately less wrong didn't become the place for politics because rationality doesn't like it, like put a strong ban against political arguing, at least current politics. Like Eliezer, when writing the sequences, advised that, hey, you can refer back to ye olden day politics, but anything current, like last 20 years, sort of like, don't touch that because it just, people go goo goo gaga in their head when you involve like real-time politics. And so we should steer clear of it. So I think ultimately all those politically minded people forked into other conversation circles. They just started having their conversation elsewhere, but they were visiting Less Wrong as a place to have a conversation in the early days, meant that lots of different people from lots of different walks of life visited to check it out, to see if it fit. And then some of them like forked off to become effective altruism, others forked off to become artificial intelligence. And then there was also this recognition that there's a big enough community, like there's enough smartish people who want to hang out and talk about relevant things to each other that's hard to talk about in other places, that other things started popping off. So you got the whole Bay Area rationality community, you've got the solstice, you've even got like a fork into post-rationality and Burning Man and strange things over there. And these people are like, oh yeah, we know that many of us have been through rationality to get to that post-rationality community.
Yeah, so I was doing that journey, but I didn't know any of that information. So I'm just like looking for. I also didn't realize at the time that that probably the best idea would be not to like stay in the rationality community, but to go to where the rationalists go after they go through the rational community.
Well, you know, when I was in,
that was.
I feel like when I was in rationality community, so we're talking about around 2012, 13, 14, I didn't know where the place was after rationality. I did this. So one of the things that rationalists are really good at is being experts at stuff. And so the fun part is like someone would post on rationalist Twitter, rationalist Facebook on Less Wrong, hey, I just read this book, here's what it says, right? And then I would, along with a bunch of other rationalists, scurry away and read the book really quickly, like in a day or two, because I really wanted to be able to keep up and be present to that conversation.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses is hard in that.
Don't tell anyone, but we're secretly reading up, and then like, you know, in 2 days, you know, if I'm doing by audiobook, it's 4 to 5 hours of reading, depending on the side of the book, maybe a bit longer. And I would scurry away, read the book. And because I was reading it so quick, I had it all in my head synthesized, right? And so then I could like join the conversation and argue about it. And like, oh, this and that, or that other book, and blah, 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 right? And that was a cultural thing that we were doing. That don't tell anyone. We're all like scurrying around reading the books.
I actually really enjoyed that though.
I loved it, but I also love the like the Heidi thing, like pretend like we're not like oh yeah, I just can't look. What a coincidence! I have just read the book you mentioned this week.
Like I know this stuff too.
Yeah. And then we all like arguing about it on the spot, and like we were on the cutting edge of where's rationality going when we were doing these conversations about, you know, there were, for me it was books about meditation or therapy or different philosophies of popular science culture. But yeah, I felt like, other than the people like the politically minded people that forked off from rationality, the effective altruism people that forked off, the AI researchers that forked off, the rationalists didn't know where they were going. They still don't know where they're going. They just want to be rational about things.
Yeah, I think that's not necessarily bad though.
No.
Yeah.
To be honest, I still don't know where I'm going, but I'm much more in meditation and in the weird post-rationality space than I was back when I was in the rationality.
Yeah, like you kind of want people to be able to like, I think, do the thing that makes sense to them.
And that's been a discovery over time. It's been like we keep discovering what's interesting to us.
Yeah, and like that's yeah, it's like part of the journey. I don't know why. Oh yeah, so when I met with you, okay, so like this is the story of how I met you and joined the groups. So I met with you. I met with a bunch of people, and I liked you a lot. I thought you were really, I don't want to say like down to earth, but like.
Oh, I can't hear you so well. You got very soft.
We got the microphone knocked.
Yeah. You liked me. You thought I was down to earth. Go ahead.
Like we resonated. Like you're saying things, and I'm like, I think like the first time I met you, you were like, oh, do this thing. It was like a meditation. It was an expansion. So expand like the space around you. And I was very like skeptical of this. I think I was just beginning of psychotech, and I was very skeptical. I'm like, oh, I already know this one. Like it's fine. And then I did it anyway, and it really worked really well. So I'm like, okay, I'll continue this. See where this goes.
Yeah, and it's like I feel it is appropriate to be skeptical of practitioners that propose to know stuff, right? Oh, that's right. I remember what I was saying. The rationalists really like being experts.
Yeah.
And so
I love being an expert. I'm not, but I would like to.
Yeah. It's really quite, you know, the funny thing, what I learned later is some people are really triggered by an expert or expertise. Like you'll get the whole, you think you know better than me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, being an expert is great. All I want to do is find the biggest expert and be like, high five, man, you're so cool.
Yeah, like just teach me everything.
Teach me everything you know, right? That's like my desire. Whereas other people are like, there's no such thing as expertise. They're just pretending to be better than us. Right. I really liked, anyway, so rationalists really like being experts, reading those books and like being experts.
I like knowing things. And so yeah, like that was perfect for that. Like that's all that stuff. And like Scar Alexander and like, and then there's always like these like links to links, and then you just like go down this rabbit hole and you wind up spending
He'd write stuff, he'd know stuff, and you'd read it and want to know stuff with him. Right. So I really love that. And then at one point I was like, where are all the experts who've been experting for like, 10, 20 years, longer than I have? Where are the super experts? Because there should be super experts out there. If experting is like a really good thing, then where are the people who've been experting for way longer? Why?
But they've been around before the internet, so it's like also different.
Well, they were experts before. They should have been experts before the internet. But like, why? Like, I racked my brains for a moment. Like, where are they? Why can't I find them?
No, I think I think like nowadays we're much more knowledgeable for sure.
Well, the question is, if they're out there, they're likely to be like there's this old article in the rationality canon called "Being a 1,000-Year Vampire," and the author is nowhere to be found anymore. But the proposal was that the cool thing about vampires is they live, or in the trope of vampires is they live such a long time. They live multiple lifetimes compared to humans, right? And if you've lived 1,000 years, you should be gathering knowledge for all that time. You should be like accruing wealth and wisdom and mastery and all of these wonderful things that that humans kind of sort of really value. But the question is, where are all the 1,000-year vampires? And also, how do we become more like wisdom that grows and multiplies at the rate, like faster than the rate of your average ordinary human watching TV.
Like, how do you learn faster? Because you're gonna die one day.
Right. And so I had this question of like,
how much you can learn.
If there are experts, where am I going to find? And I should have already known them, right? Everyone should just know, like, this is the expert, that's the expert. Like, funnily enough, Elon Musk seems like a cool guy, but he feels like he has some engineering knowledge, but he doesn't feel like a 10x expert on like me trying to work things out over here. He's clearly a great guy, as are many famous and competent humans who've run corporations or politically move the world in various directions, but they don't feel like experts that are 10 or 100 times greater than your average expert who's written a psychology book or something.
I actually like now or then?
This is a couple of years ago when I was thinking and looking about it, but even now, like, who are the experts? If we're expecting there to be incredibly greater experts than your expert, than your ordinary expert, where are we going to find them, and what are they going to look like?
Yeah, so that's the question. I remember, like, because when I was younger, I grew up religious, so there was like, these guys are the experts and they know what's going on. And then when I went to them and I'm like, hey, God and stuff, and they didn't give me good answers, I was like,
right,
okay.
That's my joy too. I love to challenge the expert and to see if they can actually hold up to debate.
Well, it wasn't like even like I do like to be like contrarian and challenged, but like when I was on my journey, I wasn't like, okay, I'm not actually like here to challenge you. I want to know the answer. So like, right. I just want the answer so that I could, like know which path in life to walk. And I didn't get good answers. Like,
did you at least get peers? Did they at least go, that's a good question? Or did they like dismiss you like, I don't have time for this question?
No, they were good. Like I went to Orsamech in Israel, and there's this like philosopher, like he used to be the head of the philosophy department at Johns Hopkins. He's an Orthodox Jew who teaches those people. So like we went to the stuff, and I remember when I was in university, I had to write an essay I had to write something on consciousness actually. And I actually just kind of took a bunch of his ideas and wrote it there. And I got a good mark on it too, because it was good. Like he had good stuff. Like his philosophy was very good for me at the time.
Right.
But
But you didn't find the experts who told you how to live. You just found other people trying to work it out too. Is that
no, he wasn't. He was like, no, this is how it is. Like, it's like God and the Torah and all this. And we did do back and forths, and like I was there for over a year. And like emails and stuff like that. But then at the end of the day, and I had this other friend who was like an atheist, and so I like talked to him, and then I talked to the other guy, and we talked, and so it was like back and forth, and so it's all this stuff, so I could, get the different perspectives. And it kind of just didn't like, it didn't pan out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it turns out that that's not the one true religion, and all of the religions are wrong, unfortunately. It's been very convenient for me.
Yeah. Okay.
But that turned out to not be the case.
Right. So I can tell you what I did. So here I was asking this question, where are the super experts? And I actually didn't find an answer when I asked that question. I was like, I can't seem to find them. Maybe they're hiding, or maybe there's something going on that I don't understand. And maybe expertise is not the great ideal that I wanted it to be. Which, if you look at some of the developmental stage theories, turns out that expert isn't the highest thing. And we care about other things other than expertise. But at the time, I didn't know that. I didn't know I was about to start caring about other things.
Yeah. The expert questions got really, really nebulous. Like, it got really nebulous at a certain point. Because like, what an expert in what, and what does that mean?
Yes.
And now all of a sudden, like, it just explodes. And
you go, what does that mean? And then the question, what does that mean, opens into like the grand universe of meaning making.
It could mean these 8 million things. And depending on which thing you're trying to do, depends on what kind of expert you have, and what is important. And then I'm like looking for like an expert in, like, I guess, expertise or something. Like, I don't even know what that is.
Well, actually, there is an expert in expertise. He passed away. His name was Ercisson, and he studied expertise, the obtaining of expert knowledge, and he studied things like computer programmers and master musicians, and wondering how they got where they got, or like chess masters, how did they get to where they get to? And I read that book, Pika Anders Ericsson. I read the book, The Art of Learning. I read The Inner Game of Tennis. These are 3 really good books on expertise, on becoming an expert, on gaining knowledge. And they're good. And yet,
it's also like, what? Yeah, sorry. So go
ahead.
Then there's also like, what knowledge, like what knowledge should you, like, what is the best knowledge? And then there's also like, there's like very like from, like, say, for Vervaeke's perspective of, you have like the 4 P's, like perspectile, participatory, propositional, and the other one, which I forgot at the moment. But like, then you have like that kind of like expert or learning and stuff, and then the knowledge becomes very different depending on what you're doing. And then also, like, my brain kind of hit a point where I hadn't, like, I couldn't put more knowledge in. There wasn't room left. Or at least that's how it felt.
But maybe there wasn't room left given the context you were holding.
Yeah. So that's what it wound up being, is like, okay, I need a way to condense this information. Like, I need a way to compress it, essentially.
Synthesize, to clarify, to
not synthesize, to clarify, but compress. Like, you have a file and it's really big and you want to store it, you need to compress it. And that's what a lot of like the spiral dynamics, I find, really, really help with that, with compressing all the information, because it kind of like set up like a good structure to put all the info, to condense all the information. Now, if I'm tribe level, then this is what the world looks like. If I'm this level, this is what the world looks like.
Right. And someone had organized this information, and that gave you a scaffold to start organizing what you were.
Yeah. Well, they gave me the scaffold that then I can organize the information myself, because like, they can't organize what's in my head. Like, that's not possible. But they gave me a structure that I could do that for myself in an effective way. And then the meditation and stuff came in, because I realized there's actually a lot of part of me that I'm just not using.
Mm, right.
And
So was this a shift away from rationality into meditative space?
I
Because I
wouldn't
did
say I
one of
switched
those.
away from rationality. It's just rationality became less interesting. I feel like
Mm,
I know people are going to disagree with this, but
right.
like I feel like I mastered it to the extent that
The
it's
subjective sense is
rational for
maybe
me.
that you felt like there was a limit to where could get to with rationality, and so you hit it, and then it was
Yeah,
time
there
to
was no
start looking at
yield.
a different way.
Yeah, it stopped producing yields essentially because I kind of, and I don't know if this is like true or delusion or whatever, but I felt like I hit the point where I'm like the amount of people that I could have like a discussion with, an actual discussion with, as on like the level that I want to, has gone to like zero.
Right.
And some of that is because I'm not cool enough for them to hang out with me. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the like the most rational guy in the whole world, but like functionally speaking, I can't get the discussions that I want to have.
Mm, okay. Interesting. So I had a similar journey of so the way I described it is in the beginning of rationality, I was looking for like improve your life by 10% with this one weird trick, something that would take a huge chunk and make my life better by a huge chunk. And then I ran out of 10 like known obvious
We
10%.
can call that like outsized opportunities, right?
Maybe low hanging fruit, right? Like
No,
big,
no, because you're looking for the big ones. Low hanging fruit could
right?
be also incremental.
Well, anything bigger than 10%, I've obviously found. Like you can't walk through life without
Yeah.
seeing the bigger ones. Like, but improve your sleep is a good 5 to 10%er if you are not doing it right. If you're not doing it yet, like improve your sleep, get your macronutrient diet like reasonable is a
Yeah.
good 5 to 10% if you're not doing it. Like quit smoking, quit drinking. It's a big 5 to 10% if you're not already doing it, right?
Yeah. Fortunately I can do that one.
Well, you can also switch from smoke to vape, like other
No,
drugs.
no, I couldn't do it because I wasn't smoking or drinking.
Oh yeah. Right. I had never smoked, and so I was like, damn it, no, I can't gain the improvement here because I'm already ahead on that one.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I ran out of big 5 to 10%er like leaps that I can make. Like it doesn't matter if I read another book about sleep. I've already got the knowledge around sleep. Maybe I can get a little bit more, but I can't get another 5%. So then I started looking for like the 1%. Like okay, maybe there's 1% edge, and maybe I can organize myself better, like the getting things done system. Maybe okay, what else? Where else can I get 1%? All right, maybe I can try some pomodoros. Like I can edge out a little bit more time and energy from my life, and then like I felt like I ran out of 1%ers, and then so I started looking for the like 0.1%ers. Like okay, 0.1% looks like the day after I do exercise, I feel better and I get a little bit more out of that day. So I want to always be like making sure that I exercise so that the next day I feel a bit better. And these are like the little nudges. And then like, if I get a little bit more sun, it seems to sometimes make a difference. And here
Yeah,
we're
so
into
you're
like,
finding all these like basic like these are things that aren't even like don't really even like come into the rational space just because they're too
well, at some point they end up anecdotal,
like
right?
they're not complex enough or they're too complex, right?
Well, the trouble is that the improvement was anecdotal, right? And so it's hard to measure. And then the causality is
Yeah.
questionable because it's so anecdotal. And I'm trying to chase that extra little bit. And suddenly I'm like, oh, crystals become a viable alternative. Maybe if I touch this crystal, it seems like it gives me like an edge the next day. I'm like, oh, suddenly like crystals made sense. Like
Oh
not in
shit.
not in the way that I would expect that 10%er to happen. But if I'm trying to chase those 1%ers, I'm like, someone says, put a plant in your bedroom. And I'm saying, well, I'm going to forget to water it. But it does something unknowable with the oxygen in the room and seems to be, well, just put a plant in my bedroom and see if it helps. I'm willing to do that for many plant in bedrooms. I'm not
Yeah,
super.
because instead of trying to figure out everything, you just test it and see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, I've never done the crystal stuff. I would like
I've,
to try that one day.
I've poked at it, like I've like perceived it a little bit and gone, I'm not sensitive enough to notice if a crystal makes much of a difference, but I get the theory that maybe having nice crystals around it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. My
Maybe
wife
if you
likes the
like them,
geodes, so we have some of those around,
maybe if you like them, they help
but she
anyway.
thinks they're cool, not
Yeah,
like
not magical.
mystical.
Right. So I felt myself. So suddenly, at some point in crossing from the 10%ers to the 1%ers to the 0.1%ers, meditation became a useful, like, what the heck is that thing? Why do people say it's so good? And so I started exploring, and that was my shift from hitting the like limits of the obvious growth in rationality to the like trying out these other ones in weird meditative space and being very confused by what was there.
Yeah, for me, the meditation stuff kind of the experiential stuff clicked in because the group the Toronto group got into that, and like the guy who was like running the like the guy who's running the thing was running EATO went on one of our retreats and then became a monk. Like he's a monk now or something.
Wow.
Or
Like
a
monastic
monk. He's a monastic.
Yeah. Wow.
He's part of the monastic academy. And but like the thing was like everybody's getting into that. I'm like, well, I want to hang out with these people, and so I'm gonna have to play these games. And they got really into like this stuff, and I'm like, no, this is religion. Like this is the kind of thing that I'm familiar with this. Like I grew up religious, and this is what they do, and now you're doing this. And they're like, no, it's not. And they give me the same speeches that like like I honestly, like even when I was growing up, I wouldn't even give those speeches because they're too cliche. Like I would be embarrassed to. Like I've heard them from Muslims. I've heard them, like it's not even just Jewish. It's just like if somebody said that, we'd make fun of them because like that we would hear that shit all the time. And like all these excuses and all these things like, oh, they didn't, like, no, like that, you know, that was fine when we're 10, but like, you know, by the time you're in high school, if you already don't, you know, like the slow kids or the people that weren't into this, like they would learn this in high school. And now we're like, I don't know, like like late 20s, and they're just discovering this for the first time. And so I'm like, this is bullshit. Like anyone could just do this. And so then I did. And here I am. But it's an interesting journey, actually. That's what's funny. And then so then for me, it's like, well, okay, I guess religion is correct. Just all the people that taught me this stuff is wrong. Like they got the traditional all mixed up.
Right. Well, I guess my finding was
Not totally
there
wrong.
is something broadly labeled as spirit, or something that is useful broadly labeled as spirit. To getting in touch
and
with
the soul,
getting to know.
and God, like your relationship with God, like all these things are real, and they're just like, it's kind of like, it feels like all these religious terms have been like co-opted by like the religious institutions.
Yeah, structural institutions.
Yeah.
Well, which I think was an attempt to do. I have a theory that when religions organized, they were attempting to democratize spirit, you know, like in a good way. Look, everyone can have equal access. Whereas prior to that, you may have like one shaman or a small select number of people who were connected to spirit, and they became the bottleneck for individuals to access spirit. Apparently, but once you democratize, everyone could have equal access.
Yeah. So
and like systematized access.
Right? Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, it depends on which religion, where, and when, but I think a lot of it is like that. Apparently, I've just found this out. The rednecks in the US, they're called rednecks because they would do church outside, and they would get sunburned, and on the back of their neck, and they used to just do church like anyone could do. Like anyone could do a church, like
conduct a service on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, like you know, people would have to like go and stuff. Otherwise, I don't know if you count. But versus like some of the other ones were like much more formal institutions.
Right. So the South has this leader who would conduct the ceremony as opposed to just anyone.
Yeah, or like the Catholicism, like you got to be ordained by like the Catholic
greater system.
Yeah, like the Catholic Church decides stuff, you know, which in theory is like headed by the Pope and all that. But yeah, I do agree that a lot of the religious institutions are like this. And originally, like that's the thing, is like I'm not against institutions in general. I'm not even saying that these institutions are historically bad or not or good. I don't, like, a lot of them I don't know, but I do like a lot of them probably did do their job and disseminated like the spirituality to that extent. But it really does feel like a lot of the people that are sort of in charge and saying stuff is not like, this is like, you have no connection to the divine. Like they have connection to the literature and to like the rules, but they're not in contact with the divine on a regular basis, and so they shouldn't be spiritual leaders. And I actually feel extremely strong about this.
Because
you can do other things.
They don't seem to talk to their populace about how their own connection to the divine.
A lot of them don't, and especially like, and depends where, because I have seen some stuff online, like if you Google,
I think there are people doing it, but that's separate to the fact that you grew up with people who didn't seem to be doing it.
I grew up with people that did not have connection to the divine. And it was like taught that you can't have connection to the divine.
Oh, like it's too special or too something.
Like you have no idea what you're doing and don't even try.
Right.
And even the ones that were into,
that makes sense for a sense of like reverence towards the divine.
Yeah.
And you should respect this thing. But sure, it would confuse you. You have to get to the end of your teenage years and turn around and be like, hey, God, how's it going? And like establish a connection.
Yeah, you should be doing that at the beginning. Like, I don't see any, like, I don't know what age, but like by the time you're 10, like by the time I was 10, I could have done that. If I had been taught, which I wasn't. Probably much younger though. Like, I don't know what.
Well, I say at the end of teenagerdom, because in teenagerdom is when you rebel against what you've been told. So they tell you like God is too important, you must be reverent, and then by the end of your teenagerdom, you're like, what they said is dumb. I'm gonna make my contact with God.
No, but okay. So here's the thing: is that Judaism, you're supposed to talk to God. So we were talking to God, but they literally tell us this: if you talk to God, you're religious. If God talks to you, you're crazy.
Oh, that's from the inside of a religion
that's from the inside of the religion. And that's crazy. Like you've missed, like, you know what I mean? And like we were talking, right, like prophecy, what used to be on the world, and then it was taken away, and there was different forms. There's prophecy, and the Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, which is not the same as the Holy Spirit, I think, as Christianity, but it might be. I don't know. And the Holy Spirit like doesn't do like, you don't have that. It's like a sort of form of prophecy. Like you don't, like that doesn't really exist today. And to be honest, I was in Judaism, and I don't think it exists there. So I think they are right about that. But like there's too much confidence for people. Like if you don't have contact with the divine, then like how are you able to talk on God? Like, well, that's
as a divine, like, it's supposed to be everywhere or whatever. You know, it's meant to be accessible.
It is yeah. But there's connection to it and seeing it and living and experiencing it. And that's
I'm
not
just gonna tap out some code in a way that only God can hear, like, you know.
yeah, and this is true for, like, this is to me like the truth, like of this is that if you're not experiencing it, and like if stuff is happening, you're not experiencing it, or you're not able to connect, or there's no, like, you're not able to do experiments or any of that, like, and then you're like, and then you come to the conclusion that it's not real. Like, yeah, that's the reasonable conclusion. Like, that's what you should do. This is what you would do if you were alive. Like, if you were a prophet and you said like that could be, you know what I mean? Like, and you saw this, you'd be like, no, it's not here. So if you're not a prophet and you say it, like, it's also true. Maybe that wasn't good logic, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, yeah, like you want that connection to the divine. Otherwise you can't speak to the religion. You know what I mean? You could be like an archaeologist or a sociologist, and you can study it from that perspective. But then you need a connection to like the academia, to like science.
So there's an interesting challenge here. I think I first heard it with something like Tantra or even like yoga, which is the proposal that you cannot study it proficiently, effectively, without partaking, without participating. Yeah. And I feel like that's an important challenge to anyone who's like, I can study it from a distance. Like to you study
it from a distance, but you're doing something different.
Right. You might not get it in the same way as if you in it.
Yeah, like archaeologists can study like how did the Roman religion work, but they're not like, they can't open a church. Like you can't open a church or whatever, a temple of Zeus, if and then claim like the Zeus is divine. You can say, you can open a temple and be like, this is what happened, and then take people through it, but you can't say this is Zeus is real and this is what it's like, and I know because I studied a bunch of ruins. Like that's not going to go. You can say I studied a bunch of ruins and then I got inspired and then the spirit of Zeus came on me and then I opened a temple. Like you could do that, but you can't. You have your like your what's it called? Like your authority, or your like your
Truthiness.
Yeah, your truthiness. That word, I can never remember if that word is sarcastic or not. Like, is truthiness like actual truthness, or is it just things that sound like truth?
Yep. Okay. I think that swings either way.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like your truth comes from like the lived experience, or the life itself, not something else. So academic, like historical record and stuff can come from the past, because that's, but like it should come from the past. Like that's what it's that's what it's meant to, like that's what it's there for.
So I went on my journey and I was in the rationality space, and then I was running out of the 10%ers and I got to the low percenters, and then I hit meditation space, and I was like, what I was trying to do in the rational space, as in I didn't really know what I was trying to do. I was trying to work things out. I was trying to understand. And then one of the things meditation did is it broadened my context for noticing I was a person trying to do a thing. I wasn't just doing a thing, I became a person trying to do a thing. Like I got one step further out. And then I meditated more, and I got it like another step further spacious, quite literally, if you want to go there, further to a greater contextual understanding of myself and what I was doing. And so suddenly,
it's like more and more meta within the context of rationality.
That's right. So one way you might think of it is like if I'm controlling a lever, right? I'm controlling the lever of, well, one of the levers that I like to control is, am I having a good day today, right? And on the smaller domain, in the small self can sort of go, well, I feel miserable in this moment, right? And then the slightly bigger self can like move a different lever and be like, okay, let's change what we're thinking about and see if that like makes us less miserable. And then a slightly bigger self can be like, okay, what factors are contributing? Am I hot, cold, hungry, tired? Like, what are the factors contributing to my misery? Let me try and address those. And like, as I keep expanding to bigger versions of myself, I can be like, oh, does my life suck? Is that why I'm miserable today? And that's a broader question. And not only could I start seeing that picture, I could see it along with the other layers that I was previously like waking up feeling miserable, going, why me today?
Yeah, you were able to
like
kind of like
expanding sphere of influence.
Yeah, well, yeah, or it's like the realities that are nested within each other. So like you have like this second, like this activity, like I'm feeling miserable. Is it like because of this activity? Is it because something like that's been happening in my life? Is it because like recently, like because I woke up badly? Is it because I haven't been exercising this week? Is it because I hate myself and everything I do is meaningless?
Right. And suddenly I can go with that one. I can be like, okay, I need to find better meaning. Like that's a pretty big sphere.
Yeah, that means like everything.
What is my meaning?
Just drops, right?
Right. And
more or less.
Well, I don't know, different people could do it differently, but if I'm like suddenly I'm in this place of considering, contemplating, thinking about, reflecting on, reorienting my meaning. Like, what do I want to find meaningful today?
Yeah. Like, what is my life?
That is a bigger that is a bigger sphere than I was in a moment ago, right? And meditation helped me to start grappling with these layers and recognizing that I am both the person who sets the meaning and the person who pursues that meaning.
Yeah. So, and that's like having a relationship with yourself, kind of.
Right. And then that enabled, and suddenly I wasn't in rationality space anymore, because rationality space, I feel like it assumes the goal. Like you show up to and you say to rationality, I want to get from point A to point B. Rationality will say, Great.
This is the best
Here are
way
some
to do it.
tools.
Yeah.
Try these ones. If those don't work,
Yeah.
try these ones. Talk to
Yeah.
7 people over there who've got from A to B. Like, but if you show up to rationality and say, I don't know what my goal is,
What should I figure out? Yeah.
like scratch its head a bit
It's
and be
gonna have
like,
a hard.
come back when you know what you want, and I can take you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
to me,
not
this
the
is
fault
like
of rationality. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's good. Like I think that's actually like a really positive side of rationality, is that like to me it's like the way I came out is the question is what should I want, or what should I do, or what should I think? Like, what is it that I should be figuring out right now?
And rationality is not really good at answering that.
And so that's the thing. Like, to me, that's like the synthesis. Like, trying to answer that question, like, it synthesizes rationality and I guess like the human spirit or something.
What is interesting to me today?
What?
Right. The question of what is interesting to me today. Where do I want to
No, that already presupposes that you should be following what's interesting to you.
Oh, right.
Which, like, in general, I agree with, but why? Like, prove it to me.
Why
Like,
interesting rather than meaningful? Why meaningful rather than important? Why important rather than exciting?
And then it kind of comes down to like this arbitrary, like, well, this is who I am. Like, this is what's going on right now.
Oh, wait. I just named
like,
a bunch of emotions, right? I want to chase what is exciting, right? Suddenly I'm like, why should I pursue those emotions?
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking myself to a deeper layer of my programming conditioning. And I'm like, well, there exist exciting emotions. Maybe I should go towards those ones. And wait, which things do I find the exciting emotions around? Oh, I guess those are the things that I should be I should follow.
Again, no, but like it depends which side you're doing it, right? Like you could do like go deeper and be like, oh, so that's why. But you could go deeper and be like, okay, so there is a thing inside me that generates interestingness. That's important to me. Why should it be that what's important to me is important to me? Or why should it be that what's interesting? Like, why should I follow what's
now you can go further into nihilism and break things up and deconstruct things and have less meaning and be very confused for quite a while.
Well, it depends. Like if you go actually no meaning. This is the thing. People do nihilism, they do it half-assed, and then it's a shitty philosophy if you do it half-assed.
Right.
If you go all the way, it's fine because it just ends. Like it cancels itself out. It's when you do half of it, you're like, nothing matters, so I'm going to do whatever I want. Like,
I don't find this meaningful. Why should I do this either?
Yeah, like you've all you've done is destroyed meaning for yourself. Like that does nothing.
Right.
But then some people
going.
Huh?
If you keep going.
Yeah, but if you keep going, like, okay, well, why should I do what I want? Like, there's no meaning. Like there's no greater purpose. There's no God. There's no the universe telling me that this is what I should be doing. So why should I do it? And then I think at the end of the day, for me, it was like you get into this state where you do nothing, where nothing's there, and this is like a nothingness. Like this is an actual meditation. It's just philosophy. Like it's from the philosophy side.
It's an access point through philosophy, but it's still I would say
philosophy is meditation. People don't realize this. Like if you take philosophy seriously, and like you like legitimately experience these ideas or thought experiments and then live your life that way, this is a meditation. It's just coming in a different way. You lose a lot of touch with your body. Like I think that's the problem.
But that's a type of meditation. There's meditations that get you out of the body. There's lots of them.
Yeah. But yeah, again, like it's like a whole like you can just do that and then be like, oh, I should do my body, and then you do that. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, in real life, you need all the things intersect. You need all the things intersect, like mind, body, spirit, psyche. Mind, body, spirit, psyche. Yeah. So you need all 4 of those intersecting, and that's where you get the real stuff.
Psyche is mind, body, spirit. Usually it's a set of 3.
No, there's 4 of them. This is Sadhguru. It's mind, body, spirit, and psyche. Because your emotional, your psyche, your psychological well-being and or system or whatever it is, like your emotions and all that stuff. Like that's not your spirit. That's something different. Like you're not your mind. You're not your body. You're not.
Usually
you're not your emotions.
All right, these are just different ways to cut the pie.
Yeah, Yeah, this seems like the yogic way. I'm super into that right now. Like a good Jew, do the study the Indian spirituality.
Right. So I was in rationality, and then I hit this like, oh, my problem is also like greater than the rationality can solve. It's I need to know where to go before I can use my rationality to go there. And
Yeah.
so suddenly I was in the rational space, and my meaning making went like completely fell to bits, and I was very confused, and I tried to talk to the rationalists, and they thought I was on something or something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I used to do all this shit like there, and then they're like, like,
no. Yeah, not in rationality anymore. Like,
and I'm like, no, but it's you turn the thing on itself. Like it's just very simple.
right.
Yeah. But
And so
you're
there was
right.
this very confusing place because many of my community people just couldn't understand it. And then there were like these sparks of hope that like there was just a handful of people that were like, oh yeah, I'm also going into crazy territory. Guess this is where we are now. And
yeah. And then it's creepy. I find it's like super creepy because you wind up getting these connections with people and you're just not ready for that.
well, suddenly it was the land of the mystics. Because
Oh, okay.
because we didn't know where we were. All we knew is that we had to not know where we were and keep going there.
Yeah. For me there was like a jump where it wound up like transcending because like I would go to the rationalists and we're there for that, and then it like jumps up to this like really intimate place. And I was like not prepared for that. I'm
Right.
like, oh, this is not our relationship. Our relationship is like superficial. We do rationality, and now we're doing like human connection to the human. Like,
one of the things that I found was that the cool thing about the mystics is at the time we were all speaking different languages. There was this mystic language and that mystic language. Someone had one religion, someone had another one, someone had a meditation. And I went from like them weird other spiritual methods complete gibberish to like, oh, I get what you mean. Like different words, same point. We're sort of navigating to the same location, even though we've used different scripts, different maps.
Yeah, double cruxing was a big one for me to like help like be able to talk to people.
Right. So as a rationalist, rationalists really like maps, right? Map and territory.
Yeah. I mapped out a double crux. Yeah, where you can
and
go
suddenly I could see someone else was on a different map. It was just a different map. It wasn't a bad map or a good map. Mine wasn't. Self-awareness to map is different, but suddenly I could see that we were just on different maps, like pointing to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even with different maps, we can still we can dance in each other's maps and we can get somewhere together. And that was what was really cool about the weird mystics, that we're no longer in rationality territory, we're in post-rationality territory, and we are in the land of the mystics who are doing their own thing. They're like working it out. This was super exciting.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it was great fun. It was confusing, fun, exciting. There was there was a surprisingly less psychotic breaks than I expected. There should have been more, like as in the mental health system coming in to like tell us to stop doing those things, or people like being taken off the mystical path into the like, no, this is a diagnosis now, like calm down. But there was less of that, and I think one of the really nice things about the mystical, or even I'd say the hippies in this context as well, is they're very accepting. So if you're having a mildly everything is love experience, they're not going to tell you to go sit down. They're just going to tell you just enjoy it. If everything goes bad, just like take a break. If everything is then the devil, like no, time out. Like calm yourself down, get yourself back to earth when everything isn't the devil. But while everything is love, you should definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, like enjoy it. That feels amazing. Love is great. Right. Like love is amazing. Yeah, it is.
So that was I hang out with the hippies, and the hippies were doing hippie things, and they're all trying to make it work with their own damn shadow. Hippies have a lot of shadows, but I suspect because they're so focused on the good free love, accept all. There's two things. One, sharks are allowed to get into the mix, and then also we can't see our own shadows because we're too busy looking at the light.
Yeah,
which is the tragedy of hippies, and we should be extra compassionate to them. But also, some people aren't like that. Some people really are good at cleaning up their shadows while being in the hippies. But I feel like as I cleaned up my shadow, I felt less like I wanted to be in hippie land and more like I was just in an integrated place.
Mm-hmm. That's really nice.
Hmm.
And then you could still be about love, but like,
right,
with the spine and stuff.
Right. And I want to like call back to that expert thing, right? So where are all the experts? Well, experting doesn't make so much sense anymore when I have my hand on the levers of like goal and like agent and arena.
Yeah.
Like suddenly, like my problem of where are all the experts looks very different when I'm like agent arena problem. Like, like how do I be an agent in the arena being an expert? Well, wait a second. I get to like change the arena.
How do I be an expert at that agent arena relationship?
Well, but I get to choose my arena, so I can always be the expert because I've always
like
defined my arena.
Right. So does that count as expert? Or
well, like, let me tell you what, I pissed at like the rationalists do not like that at all, right? The rationalists are like, you're not a true rationalist because you can see, you're limiting your arena just to claim expertise, right? That's a problem.
Yeah, you're expert in a very small domain, and like, that but like you're allowed to do that, but it's just they can say that domain is meaningless. You can say like that domain is irrelevant to everything. So your expertise is relevant.
And obviously, I actually want to be an expert of a bigger domain. As I can now that I know there's a bigger domain, I want to be the expert of that domain too. Like that's exciting.
Like I could take a box and seal it, and then come to the party and be like, I'm an expert at what's in this box, and none of you guys know anything.
Right.
But it doesn't mean anything. Like that means nothing.
Everyone's like, okay, put the box over there, and we're gonna have a conversation.
Like, okay, I will live my life in this ignorance, and everything will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think like to me that's what it is. It's can I live my life in ignorance and everything will be fine. And there are some things that you can live your life in ignorance about, and some things that you can't. And that to me is what the expertise is. That's kind of my answer. But I don't know if that's true.
Right.
That's just sort of where I'm at.
Right. So in the end, there was no longer, I stopped looking for the super experts eventually, because I realized that the context is different.
Yeah, because the context shifts, and then all of a sudden they're obsolete.
Right. The whole question was wrong, but it was fascinating that I found a question that like had such a dead end. That was super exciting. Eventually, at the time, I was a little confused.
Yeah,
and like
that was a big thing I remember with the rational stuff. Like I would go and they'd be like this, and I'd be like this thing. And I'd be like, oh, let's like this thing, and then there'd be like I'd switch topics, and they would be like, oh, you're not like you're not good at the rational stuff because you keep switching topics. And I'm like, okay, let's have a discussion about that. Which topic should we switch? Like, wait, sorry, which topic should we talk about? Like, what should we talk about? And like if you're going to say that switching topics, you got to show me why. Like, you got to show me why yours is better than mine.
I heard a story,
and nobody likes to do that.
I heard a very similar story. I think it was of a group house, and someone had like 5 of their friends in the group house, and then like 2 new people joined, and then declared that we had to attend to this important issue of relational. It was something relational, so like who's victimizing who or something, and we need to vote on like what's important and what's not important.
Was this Freya? I think Freya did a post like this.
No, but I want to like leave the name out because I don't want identifying details. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't that person.
Okay.
But then so there was this group of 5 people who've never done votes before, and these 2 new people had moved in, declared that the rules include voting, and declared that we have to vote. And then the 5 people are like, what, why? And then with great confusion, right? Because the 5 people didn't want to do votes, they just kind of worked it out anytime they wanted. And then eventually they took the vote, and then they voted for whatever that they agreed. And then the 5 people were like, I think we're going to vote to just vote you 2 out. And then they did. And then they were back to like the good times they were having without the vote system.
That's fun.
We vote to delete the voting system.
That's funny. That's a good constitution. Like a good constitution is one that could destroy itself.
Yeah.
Like you need that in the constitution because it's in like a reasonably
in a reasonable way. Yeah. But
but that's the thing, right? Like that exact thing that you're talking about, like the system. And so like like what's the system, like how do we already make decisions, like without like, and so for me it's like that's kind of like what I do when I come into somewhere new is what is already happening such that I can transcend or create a better system without violating the current system. And so in that case, it would be like something like good vibes, right? Like that's how you get the system to change. That's how you get people to change. Is you do good vibes, and then I guess you probably show them how they can do better vibes. And then so now vibes becomes like a real, like a real thing of how things really work, and you can start to do rationality on it.
So I had an interesting relationship with entering new groups. And I've, as a group person who's run many groups, and I also before that I tried to attend and variously have attended many other people's groups. And I used to attend and like at first be very quiet because I don't want to disrupt the dynamic when I don't even know what it is.
Yeah,
that seems a bit unfair. I want to get to know the place, and then I'm gonna like decide how I fit it, decide if I like it, decide if and I did that for a while, and then eventually I realized that this wasn't working because occasionally I'd get stuck in a room and the person in charge would be like, "It's the workshop. You're now at the workshop." I'd be like, "This workshop is shit. I don't want to." Like, I got better things to do. I'm a more interesting, more complex person than to put up with stupid workshop when I've got more to offer here. And then I realized that if I'm in the room, it's my room, right? As in, like, yes, maybe someone is running the workshop, but I'm not allowed to be complacent about my part in the workshop. I need to be willing to contribute. I need to be helping that person run the workshop and be like, hey, here's my vulnerability to share so that other people can also share. I need to be present to the workshop because if I'm not present to the workshop, no one's present to a workshop. If I'm distracted, if I'm on my phone, everyone's got permission to be on their phone, right? If I'm in the room, it's my room as well, which means
you have co-responsibility.
One, I need to be really picky about which rooms I'm in if I'm not actually running the room. And two, when I'm in the room, I need to be in the room. Even if I'm not literally the one who declared the meeting was on, literally the one who said, I'll host the meeting, here's what we're talking about. If I'm in the room, it's my room.
I
need to be
this is
a proactive participant of any conversation.
Like you're there, so like you have something
because I'm there.
There's this is so interesting because it's like, it's on one hand it's like retrospectively obvious, but on the other hand, like this is transcendent. Like this transcends all, like different systems. Like in this case, it's different conversations, let's say within.
Well, there was just a bunch of mistakes I was making by letting other people run the workshop, even though it was, and sometimes, it was like a luck of the draw. Sometimes I'd turn up to the workshop and it would be really great. And other times I'd turn up to the workshop and it would be rubbish. And I was, in both times, I didn't have a way to act differently or differentiate when I was subservient to whoever's running the workshop. And so I was sometimes I was trapped. And I was like, oh, there's something wrong with the way I am doing things, that I occasionally end up trapped in a room. And so I had to change my story, change my angle to, if I'm in the room, it's my room. As in, and that includes, like, if there's something wrong going on in the room, I have to speak up. If, like, for example, if there was a rudeness going on, or if there was some sort of conflict going on, and something is left unsaid, I need to be willing to say it. Otherwise, I'm complacent in the bullshit that's happening, which is quite the responsibility, but also I'd rather that one than getting taken for a ride in someone else's shitty room. Especially as I wake up to more of a capacity to be responsive and to be holding multiple perspectives and to be managing it. I'm willing to take that on. But obviously not before I was ready, but
this feels like deeper as well. Like it connects also, like this is like a kind of like a psychotech that you're describing.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And it feels like this kind of psychotech like scales. Not to be too on topic, but because like this is you like interacting with various, let's say, unknowns or something, or various like systems, like various new foreign systems to you. And so you come in and you're already like, your first initial response is to not come in with anything, like just kind of be a blank slate and then experience what's there. And then,
which was a nice theory, except that I'm not a blank slate.
yeah,
I come into a room with me.
yeah. So then, so like that's the second thing, right? Is then you do this a couple times and you realize this is extremely limiting and unhelpful, and then you've, I guess, like transformed or transcend, like how would you describe that shift into into coming in with you or something like
Well, it's
like
sort of, I guess it's a expansion of where my agency is. So maybe prior to this, I would be like, okay, I'm going to turn off my agency. I'm going to attend the room and respond if asked questions, right? I'm going to be subservient to whoever's running the workshop or running the particular conversation we're in. And I'm going to respond if asked, because I am willing to comply with, you are the one who started the group, you are the one who's in charge. And so I like disabled my agency. I can't say this is boring because it's your conversation. You're the lead. And then I realized how much that didn't work. And so in expanding my sense of my arena, expanding my arena, it includes the conversation. So if the conversation is boring, I do have to say something. Even if someone else is in charge, I will be like, hey, can we stay on topic, or can we switch back to the topic?
Like even, what would you call this? Like being like an active participant, or
like proactive, even
like proactive. So that
like shaping the room, not just being in the room.
Yeah, because you're talking like I know that, like I don't really experience this so much anymore, but I definitely used to, where like for me, if there's an authority or if there's something like agreed upon, then it feels like kind of sacred. Like I can't like, oh, this is your room, so whatever you say goes. But then being on the other side of that as like person who has run rooms, like I don't want that. Like I'm here to just kind of like, usually I'm just there to set the tone or something, or be like, hey, like restrictive at the beginning, this is the thing that we're looking at, and then once we get going, I want people to create, help create.
So as the person, as myself, having many times been the person running the room, what I want is I want my participants to step up. I want them to say, I want to talk about this. I want them to say, I'm frustrated about this. I want to make it better. I want them to take ownership and lean into co-creation of the room.
And there is also something about like, not just because like you walked in someone's space, that doesn't give them the right, like that doesn't put them in charge of you. They're not the boss of you just because it's their Zoom room.
So interestingly, it feels like this is some conditioning from school and from hierarchical societal systems, where you walk into the classroom, the teacher's in charge. That's what they try and train into you. You walk into work, your boss tells you what to do.
And whatever they say, like that's how things are. And like they get it, I like dictate the reality, and they're the gods in their own domain. And like, this is false. Well, this is incorrect.
It can be useful, is what I would say. Sometimes it can be useful, and then also sometimes it's unhealthy.
Well, yeah, like I'm saying, like it could be like, okay, this is my classroom, and this is what my brother was on. It's like, this is my classroom, this is what I'm teaching. If you don't like it, you can sit in the back, right? Like that's very different, because that has an attitude of buy-in. Like the other person, you know what I mean? Like, this is my room, but you're still a person, and you still got to have your own opinions and your own views, and like you're not subservient to me. You're just in my house, right? So don't don't put your feet on the couch if that's not what we do here. Right? Which is very, very different than, I think, a lot of the people, like, at least I know for me, like a lot of it was just, okay, this is your thing, so I'm going to think your way, like, and then just be able to be like, no, this is wrong.
Like sitting there going, no, it's wrong, and not actually contributing or adjusting.
No, that's like sitting in resentment. I don't.
Right. So that's one of the mistakes
I do see people avoid
as a participant.
Not my weakness. It's and to like be able to like reframe the whole situation. So be like, okay, this is what's going on, and like then for me, it's like, well, I have two like if I don't like the frame of what's going on, I have two choices. Either I can reframe what's going on, or I can leave. Right. Otherwise, you're in prison.
Right.
A prison is this where you're stuck in a frame and you can't leave. Like you're the bad guy and you have to do whatever we say. Right. But you have to do whatever we say and you have to follow our rules and all that stuff. Like that's, and you can't leave. That's prison. And school is pretty much prison. A lot of
it. We've covered that before a little bit.
Yeah. And so I think actually your groups, like speaking of your groups, like if we're gonna go back a little bit back.
Right. This is where we started, right? How my groups don't scale so well. What's going on with me?
I'm glad we've had this conversation because I didn't realize exactly what it was. But I think your groups have a little bit of the opposite problem where there's not enough. So there's a bunch of ways, like there's not enough like cohesion that this is it, and there are things that are it and there are things that are not it. And there's like a bunch of different ways to do that. Like you do that with attractor points, you can do that with rules, you can do that with boundaries. So there's like a lot of ways. You can do that. Yeah. I think that's it's a kind of attractor points or boundaries. I guess. Right. I don't know if you read Malcolm Ocean's like article.
I don't know the jargon so well, even if I did read it.
So he did one that he's got one on like boundaries or stuff that like rules will keep you like don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, like that keeps you within a certain parameters, but it doesn't versus like an attractor point which it brings you towards something.
Right, like kids, this is really interesting, come over here, check this out.
Yeah, like I got a PlayStation, all the kids are going to go there. Versus making rules, you can't go anywhere that's not where the PlayStation is.
Or like okay. Don't leave the table when you're eating dinner, right?
Yeah, don't leave the table when you're eating dinner versus having like interesting, like having a dinner table where people want to be there, and then you don't need to do it. Like like feeding kids is like a perfect one, right? Like eat your vegetables, or you can make delicious vegetables.
Right. How do we make these vegetables more delicious? Do we need sauce on this? Like,
yeah, or like most don't overcook them.
Your task, my child, is to go on YouTube and find a new way to cook them so that you want to try.
Vegetables are so simple. Like pretty much every vegetable you can parboil it and it tastes good. Like a little bit of salt, butter, maybe.
Yeah.
And pepper, and you're done. Like that's it.
Right. So we started at the like groups that don't scale, and then we went on this whole tangent of like what it's like being in a group together and learnings up here in order to learn something, right? That was accidentally, we've been on this path for some reason.
Yeah, but okay, it's weird because I thought we were off topic, but I'm actually realizing I think we actually
there was something we were learning in that journey.
Like, so interesting to me because it just felt like I was just going with that. And so like this conversation itself is a bit of an example of that, where
well, it's been a co-creation of exploratory topic in order to, I suspect, answer that question. Why don't my group scale? Or how do I get more things that scale? How do I get more?
Yeah, because
I already
right. So I want to be here. Right, because there's drive, we're going somewhere, you know. I don't know where it is, but we're going.
So I have one idea there, which is something like get more co-creation, or I need to shift my agency to include the agency of those around me a little bit more, which I guess I've been a little bit busy, haven't quite done yet, right? So
and the ones that I've been part of have been a little. Okay, so I'm gonna do this, but I'm coming from more like a classical sense, which isn't necessarily the thing that which isn't actually. Okay, this is the problem because like I have a framework for answering this, but the framework itself is not is incorrect. So I can share with you the framework and then
whatever. You are the co-creator. We're working this out here.
Yeah, I don't endorse this frame. Because because it's not a meta modern frame. But like the classical frame would be something like, well, you need to have like a purpose, and you need to have like structure so that people come in, they know what they're doing, they know where they're going, they know, and then they can do the thing. So like you want to have things that are the thing and things that are not.
This is for groups that are constructed around the purpose, where the woodworking group, we come here, we do woodworking, then we go home. Right. But doesn't work so well when we have less defined purpose, or groups that, I think this is a me problem as well. I am bad at defining purpose and direction. And so I have this confusion, and it's hard for me to do. And I show up to groups, and groups don't know what to do because I am lost, and so they are lost.
Because you're. So this is the thing. This is the thing I actually really appreciate about you, though. Like you show up and you're present, and you're doing your thing, and then
I know what that is, but I'm doing my thing,
and I'm doing my thing. Yeah, and honestly, like to me, that's what kind of like, I don't know, like at least like some level the meta modern, some aspects of it. Like you got to have people where like I think Malcolm, again, it keeps coming back to Malcolm, which bugs me for other reasons. But he was talking about this where it's like I think it was him, or it was no, it wasn't Malcolm. It was Malcolm. He posted this on Twitter, but this was originally from Chapman. He had this thing where like, okay, you have this I think it was Chapman. You have this like this work environment where everybody shows up and they do the things that they think they should do, and like that's the thing. Like that's what we're doing. We're a company where people show up and do what they think they should do.
This reminds me of Frederic Laloux's book, Rethinking Organizations, which is written on top of spiral dynamics of like second tier organizations, and the idea of sort of like everyone shows up.
Stuff actually, like, can we work out this stuff? Because like I'm starting a business and I do actually legitimately want to build it this way. I don't want to come across like I don't know what I'm doing, even though I don't know what I'm doing.
So my hunch is you need a whole bunch of experience in traditional hierarchical in order to realize what works and what doesn't. So if you don't have that experience, you need to get that as well. And then it'll become more obvious what to do.
I have it because I've been in kitchens. Okay. I have work experience. I have tons of
Okay.
I just don't have office experience. That's the only thing. But I have a little, like I was Scrum Master, so that kind of counts as office.
There was a book, there's a book by David Marquette called Turn That Ship Around. And he talks about, he managed a Navy boat.
I have tons of hierarchical experience, but it's like actually like hierarchical, not like office where there's like politics and shit.
So he managed the ship, and he shifted the culture around so that every underling would come to their superior and say, "This is what I'm going to do. Is that okay?" And then the superior would say, "Okay, go do it." Sort of, or like, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to train in my place, because like I can't, like this is how to scale it, right? So I know that I'm going to want to scale the business, and I'm also not an expert in everything. Like they're like all the people that I'm be working with know more than me about the business that I'm in, about the industry. So like I can't actually tell them what to do because I need them to tell me what I should tell them to do. Like that's kind of how I'm doing it a little bit. But yeah, like that's, sorry, I lost the thread.
Building a plan, working with people, hierarchical, non-structured.
Yeah.
Maybe I got to flick you that book to read, the Frederic Laloux book.
Yeah,
Reinventing Organization.
It's like mandatory reading. Guys, this is how we're running it. Everybody shows up and they do the thing that they think they should do. And I was the first one here, so like I kind of know what's going on.
Right.
I was the first one here, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I'm really good at figuring out what people should do, and like that's my role mostly.
My job is to help you figure out what you're doing around me.
Yeah, my job is to help people figure out what they should do. This is it. Everybody shows up, they do what they think they should do, and then I help people figure that. Like I'm a consultant. I consult everybody. I'm like, oh, this is how the bigger picture is working. Because right now I have the bigger picture, but I really want to pass that off as much as possible.
Right. Okay, so I have one idea about how to scale, which is expanding my circle of.
The problem is people freak out because there's no one yelling at them.
Right. Well, yeah. I think I've tried to think this before, and I've run into the roadblock of either the things that people want is stupid, like I can see what they want, but it's stupid, and
but I'm the gatekeeper because I'm the only one that can bring people on, so I can.
Or the second one is they don't know what they want either.
Yeah, I haven't had that yet.
So maybe I'll like spend some time and attention watching what people want and
for you
yeah for scaling. So I guess it's like who's what's psychotech and what do they want.
Okay so this thing that we're doing, so this thing we're talking about, like when you're doing the groups, like do you want it, like I think the first thing is like kind of like how do you want it run, like do you want it that everybody shows up and does the things they're supposed to do, does the things they think they should do, because like to me that's actually awesome.
so the problem that I am facing is that
we should do that.
I should have said this right at the start. The problem that I am facing is that my groups are bottlenecked at how much time I have and how much time I can personally put into holding them together and getting things to happen in them. And the problem with that is that all of my groups hit a cap at like somewhere between 8 and 15 people. And it's like a cycling group of people. Sometimes there's more or less or different people, but there's still a finite number of people that I can cohere.
Yeah, there's a thing for this actually. So
there's Dunbar. Dunbar's
not. No, Dunbar is how many people you can know within a community. The number you're looking for is how many. What group could you, like what size group can you run? And I believe that in the military it's a platoon.
Right.
I think if I got platoon, I believe.
And so then
they have a really
they scale by getting managers to manage other people. Each of the group managers.
So a platoon is the size, the unit size that one person can manage.
Right.
So one person can know everyone that's going on in a platoon. Anything bigger than that, you don't know. Like you're reliant on the people below you. And the platoon size is between 20 and 30, but they have a very strong hierarchy, and they divide into squads and stuff as well. So squad is going to be I think it's minimum 2, like you can't have one person in a squad. And then it goes up to I think 5 or something, and then that's like subset, that's by task. So like machine gunners would be nowadays it's like 2, I think, or 1. But in the old days it would have been like 3 or 4. Yeah, there's like whole things like how they split it up into tasks. So you're like, okay, I want a machine gun there, I want a machine gun there, rifle there, and then infantry, you guys go there. And so then they can manage everything.
So you're proposing one person manages a platoon?
Yeah.
And then
but there's squads inside the platoon.
Wait. So does one person manage multiple people managing platoons, or?
Yeah. So then there'll be
what's the shape of the hierarchy?
I gotta look this up. I can never remember.
So it's not like one person manages 3 platoons. There's one manager for a platoon, and then there's a manager above that manager.
So there's one manager for the platoon. I think that's the sergeant, I believe. And then so then one step above that would be someone who manages multiple platoons.
Yes. So you've got managed by a lieutenant. 2 or more platoons make up a company, which is commanded by captain or mate.
Lieutenant manages the platoon.
Oh, interesting. So they've got sort of like a sideways hierarchy. Like you have. So you might be a soldier, and then you might have a lieutenant above you, and then you actually have a captain or major above you as well. Like you have an alternative hierarchy, but the lieutenant is the captain is also above the lieutenant, but also above you, rather than only above the lieutenant. It's not a pure hierarchy.
Yeah, because they have other things.
Oh, it is
actually super interesting the way the military works.
It is more like a pyramid structure. The platoon is headed by.
It's a pyramid structure, but it's not a perfect.
I would understand a duplicated hierarchy, like, if your captain was both above the lieutenant and above you, so you reported to both of them. But
sorry. The one you're looking up. Sorry, the one you're looking up, I think, is if you're on the Wikipedia page, they have what I was calling a platoon. They're calling a patrol or a section.
Okay.
So that's a staff sergeant or sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rankings are all weird for the military.
Okay, interesting. Anyway,
but yeah, so so that's the thing, is like you're starting to get like they're putting people in positions. So you have commissioned officers and non-commissioned officers. So to oversimplify and piss off any military people that are listening to this, commissioned officers are the people that are like they're the authority, they're the ones in charge, and then the non-commissioned officers are the people that know what's going on.
Well, I guess so to add, so
I do acknowledge this, and guys, like, interpret this properly. Not
one point is to expand my agency to include awareness to the agency of other people, like what other people want. That's one point. And then another point is to start thinking about all the people I am in contact with as themselves managing a platoon, right?
Yeah. So this is how the military and the mafia also work this way, where like you get they also have this very hierarchical structure. So like one person will be in charge of, like 4 or something, and then 4 or 5, and then like everyone's in charge of like 4 or 5 people, and you just go all the way up. Like it's not exactly that way, but like you could have it that way. So you have like a team that they do stuff, and there's a leader, and then that leader of the team is under a made man, and then that guy can run a couple teams maybe, and then and then at the end of the day you have like the families, which are like 4 or 5 families, I guess, in the New York system, and they're all like equal kind of or something, or they're all like peers, whatever. They have their territories split up. I love like structures. I love learning about this stuff. But this is to me, like there's kind of 2 things here. Like all these things have 2 things here. There's the inside and the outside. So there's one person that deals with the external side of things, and then one person that deals with the internal side. So the commissioned officer is like, okay, we have to go. Our mission is to go take this hill or to support this group, and they know what's going on. They know the big picture stuff, and so they're dealing with that. And then there's someone that's dealing with like the smaller picture stuff, like is the machine gun crew where they're supposed to be? Is their stuff in working order? Have they like cleaned it? Because if you don't clean the gun, then it's not going to work. This guy, like the squad alcoholic? Has he been, is he drunk again, or is he right? And you can't, like, it's very difficult to manage this picture and the big picture at the same time. So you generally kind of like split that up a little bit into 2.
Right.
But I think this doesn't really address your problem. I just got carried away.
Well, there's a detail there of start considering other people as having squad, like platoons behind them.
Yeah, other people have squads.
Well, everyone is connected to other humans, and in that sense, it is useful to know people who are
but
connected.
We're all connected in the great web of life, which, like, you can go down that route for organizing, but it's very...
Well, I also don't usually, it's just, I currently don't think of all the people I am interacting with as having greater arms and legs out in other directions. I just think of them sort of as their surface presentation sometimes, I guess. I don't even think I think of them.
Okay.
So I want an expanding sphere of how I think about them. I don't know quite how to just like turn my brain to the left and get it to do that, but this is like a consideration I want to make.
So do you realize that everybody's a person like you are? So you have arms and legs and you can talk to people, and so
yeah,
they're the same thing but like different.
I don't know how. That's a curious question of like how much personhood do I give the other humans in my universe? Yeah. I definitely give them depth. I don't know if I give them personhood, like
like breadth, like they're the breadth of experience and interactions and possibilities.
I give them, well, there's something I'm calling depth. I definitely give them, like, they have depth of complexity inwardly to themselves.
Yeah, you're very good at that. Like, I know that like right away with you. you're very like you're able to like go down and like what is the person actually experiencing, and
What are you calling breadth?
breadth is like horizontal versus vertical. So a lot like a lot of this stuff is like vertical kind of development, and then there's horizontal, like how many skills do I have, right? Like how many things can I do in life? How many different things can I do? How many languages can I speak? Like like you could have someone that's very, let's say language would be a good example. You have someone that's very, like you could have someone that has a lot of depth, and like the way they talk is very deep and they're able to get at subjects, articulate well, but they're stuck in one language. Then you have somebody that has multiple languages, and maybe they don't have as much, like they're able to communicate with much more of the population across different cultures, and they have understanding there, but they're not sophisticated or something, or they're not deep and academic.
Well, there's a question here. It's not like what someone is doing in this very moment implies the much more of their being, right?
Yeah.
The reason why you're saying these things here is because of all of your being that builds up to make you in this moment. And I think that what I do is I look at the implied depth, but I don't often look at the implied breadth.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a place to reflect as well. What is the implied breadth of people?
That's super important for, especially for these things, because essentially what you're doing with people when you want them to do stuff for you is you're essentially saying, or at least this is the way I look at it, you're saying, be here with me because it's better than anything else you could do. And like that's
right. In that sense, I need the breadth, or I need some awareness to the breadth.
Yeah. You need to, like, so again, like you gotta be careful, because there are places where you can just spend years learning about it, and you spend lifetimes learning, you'll never know. But yeah, you kind of want to know where else they could be, what else they could be doing with their life.
Well, okay, I think I can operationalize this also for myself. Like I can wonder about, of all the other things I could be saying right now, I'm choosing to say these ones. And so I can shift my attention to hold on to a bit more of the breadth, and that will
Interesting.
Just like that's like I can do that like that, right? I can just turn my brain left, literally just like that. I can just be like, okay, other things that I could be doing right now. I want to be present too, in a like felt sense, mental construct way, present to the other possibilities of what could be going on.
Yeah.
And as I do that, my language gets different. I've been going for like depth of self, but breadth of self is different. Like yesterday we were talking about embodiment. We were talking about be more in your body when you speak, and you will speak to more of your being. But a breadth of, like I have it in my broad theory that if I shift my mental state to be more of a breadthy shaped mental object, then when I speak, I will be transmitting the bit that I care about with the breadth, right? As opposed to the bit that I care about, but really strong, really loud, really clear, really vivid. So that's an interesting dimension.
Yeah. So
that's all right. I'll look over there and see if I can contextualize myself in greater breadth more often, because I'm quite comfortable like in a reduced amount of breadth, but in like solid depth. It's very powerful, very meaningful to like, I am clear this on what I do and what I am.
So I kind of like the way I see it, like holistically is I just want to maximize the volume. So it's like depth times breadth.
I'm just assuming that maximizing the volume is good. I'll just trust.
No. This is, I'm not saying it is. This is what I think. But yeah, like you can start with like if this is what you're doing now, so do that. But
right. So specifically, this is a psychotechnology here, that the awareness to breadth instead of awareness to depth.
Yeah.
Or as well as.
Yeah. So it's like all the things, because I used to go real deep, and then also horizontal, like how many things can I learn? Because the horizontal axis, like you can actually move much easier across it. Or like if you're thinking even of like career stuff, like it's easier to do a horizontal move than it is a vertical one. It's just like it's less important, right? People don't care about that. But like when you're when you're maneuvering against certain positions, like it might be easier to get to certain places from horizontal movements than from vertical ones.
Well, I also have this theory of sort of like a rising tide when it comes to um, developmental lines. There's this idea from integral theory called developmental lines. And so, for example, your mathematical ability is one vertical line separate to your like social ability, separate to your musical ability, separate to your, there's a whole bunch of vertical lines that are, and you can be really high up one of these and really down low the other one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, there's an interesting point where we expect highly spiritual people to be highly moral, but those are different lines potentially. There's a little bookmark there. But I actually have an alternative theory that goes with this. The problem of lines is that at some point you're capped at how high your line can be until you bring up your neighboring lines.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be really good at piano, you need to spend 10 hours a day. At some point you're capped unless you are good at the like convincing other people to give you a scholarship lines, right? Which may be a social one. It may be like filling in paperwork. It may be
or like
ability to communicate.
Yeah.
Or like work with other people. Those are all like,
yeah,
those are different lines. And then as soon as those lines are higher, you can like get more piano practice because you can do 10 hours a day for another 10 years because people are paying you a higher scholarship, right?
Yeah.
And then so there's like this pyramid rising tide thing where your lines are like capped at where the supporting lines are, right?
Yeah.
At some point, obviously, you can only be so good at piano if you don't own a piano. That's like there's a cap there, which means you need to have been born in a world with enough affluence. You need to have been born in the last couple of centuries where pianos even existed. Like you are capped in your development of piano skill by the existence of pianos.
Yeah.
And so, and yet, and even later, as history moves forward, there may be new piano knowledge techniques that are developed that you won't have access to unless you're living in the time when they're available. You are capped in your development of those skills by certain like other lines and the existence of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to be the best ever at piano, you need to get the most of those other things that you need to also raise you up. This is the rising tide.
Yeah.
This is an alternative theory of lines of development.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And I do think like you did the pyramid shape, which is like but if you round it, it's a circle, which is the maximizing volume.
Yeah. All right. I think there's something interesting there in maximizing volume. There's something we like to maximize meaning anyway. So however we maximize either breadth or depth or height or, depends. There's this fascinating thing to me is we start using directional language when we talk about shapes of consciousnesses. Like you want to get high, right? There's like a directional thing.
Yeah.
And there's a like you want to be broad or you want to be deep. Like there's some reason that we use these directional, well, we're sort of using them in a metaphorical way, but also it really does feel high when you get high and deep when you get deep. And so it's not just a metaphor, it's some experiential concrete label for the experience. And they fascinate me because you can also get like further back and get far out, or you can get in close. Like you can do all sorts of things that relational context
like far out, man.
Right. So
like that's like outside my that was really outside my perspective. It's like far out.
Cool. This might be a good time to round up. I still have some open questions, but I'm going to think about breadth and depth when thinking about scale.
Because you want people to do the things that you want them to do, but they're only going to do them if they also want to do them.
Well, I don't have an answer as to why my current groups seem to cap out at 8 to 12 or 8 to 15 people. Like, is it me? Is it them? Like, it might also be a structural. It can't be them.
It might also be a structural thing because if you're doing like a Zoom room, you can't do 100 people in a Zoom room.
Well, you can. It's just they can't all talk. So you need a structure where less people are talking on purpose, and people are okay to attend with less people talking. So a structural thing.
Yeah, that's a lecture. Like you could give lectures if you wanted.
Sure. We can also record a YouTube and leave it up there and let other people watch it, right? That's another structure.
That's the other one. How do we get people to? What is it going to take for other people for lots of people to listen to our YouTube? And that's a good question. If you're listening, please mail in your suggestions to
Well, there are ways we could write books. We could talk about what's really relevant to us and get other people in our lives into it, so that we have like a expanded
book. But like, I don't want to write it. I just want to.
You just want to be an author.
Like I don't mind like being like, okay, this is like.
Oh, right. You have dyslexia problems, so writing a book.
Yeah, I don't like. That's the thing. Like, it's a big thing. Is like I'm always trying to get other people to do my writing for me.
Coming soon, Psychotechnologies book.
If you are a writer and would like to write a psychotechnology ghost author a psychotechnology book, please write into www.
Daniel, many of our videos have 0 or 1 views.
For now, this is like, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, until we work out how to scale.
Our content, I think, is very good. I think that was the first thing was to do it regularly and then be good at it. And I think we're pretty good at it.
Yeah, I think we're actually doing something great, and I don't know how to get the word out better.
I think a big problem is that we have no target audience. Like,
that's true.
As far as I can tell, there's almost no one that would actually want that, like, is at the intersection of all these things.
And well, there's us.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's like kind of the thing where I'm like, well, this is the thing I want to listen to, so I feel like I should make it.
I reckon maybe that's
nobody else is doing this, and they need to. So
topic for our next conversation: who's our target audience, and maybe we can explore.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think if we got like a target audience, something like we're like, okay, people are interested in these things, and they're on like this level of education or something, or like they know this much, then we could like shift our language to be appropriate so that they're able to follow everything and it's interesting to them. It's like the edge of their learning. And the problem is like because we're at this like weird learning intersection where like our learning edge is everywhere. So it makes it very difficult to like present something that's understandable. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking.